All right, and with that, we are right at time. We can start. Okay, good. Welcome. This is a short ecosystem.
That's what I'd say, yeah, in the UK.
Ecosystem, presentation on Flyway. We recognize that with Redgate, we love Flyway, and we are trying our best to provide a great way for folks to test it more easily. If you have to get your own schema, your own database, figure out how to get everything going, once you do, the process and automation is sweet. But sometimes we've realized it's hard to get to that point. And so we want to show you in 20 minutes or less how you can take a backup of your database and begin to use it with Flyway with tools that we've provided. Hopefully just like that, we're going to demonstrate. So we are the two Ryans. There's a third at Redgate who happens to be one of the product folks with Flyway itself. So we are happy you're here, and hopefully we answer your questions. So I am an advocate with Redgate. I've been here for 2 years. Here doing stuff mostly with Postgres, helped bring the Postgres conference here as well. And that's what I'm here with Redgate doing, is helping with Flyway and all the tools, bringing our expertise up in this specific database, and obviously we're bringing other people on for other databases.
And I am the other Ryan, or the better Ryan. I'm a solutions specialist at Redgate. I haven't been here quite as long as Ryan too. But my job is to run the booth and do demos for you guys up here. So if there's any questions I can't answer for you in this session today, come to the booth. And if I can't answer them at the booth, I'll send you to someone else, but not me, hopefully. So, but yeah, I'll be running the demo today.
And we should say that we have a separate booth downstairs. I actually just tweeted about this or posted about it, and that thing. You follow the little feet over. There's a desk set up to actually do this here at Summit. In the vendor hall. So if you want to try and get a backup of your database and actually run through this here with some help, we have an opportunity for that too. All right, so today's challenge, as we said, traditionally trying to get your schema and understand this process of change management, whether doing migration or otherwise, can be really challenging. With your own data, so we've had this in a form that was a simple schema, something you could set up easily and quickly. We had all the configuration ready. You ran a couple scripts, and then you could do this stuff. But you have a lot of complex schemas and a lot of complex work going on, and you want to know that this is all going to happen with what you're doing, and that's the goal. So hopefully Ryan here, who's actually fairly new to helping with the Flyway space, has done a phenomenal job of learning how to get this going so we could show you in 20 minutes or less.
But why? Why are we doing this with Flyway? So what is the idea of Flyway? Are there any people that use Flyway in the room? And those that don't? Lovely. So for those that don't know what Flyway is, essentially it is trying to bring DevOps to the database. That's a very salesy way of saying we're creating migration scripts to let you go from what dev looks like. You make dev look perfect. Can we get that to prod with as little human interaction as possible? And can we do it in an automated way? So the idea is to deploy to production with confidence. Like hopefully it would be, hello prod. There's some changes. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that
very much. And a little bit less of a bucket and a broomstick sort of job.
Get out of here!
Poking it a little bit. That's the way people tend to see making deployments to prod at the moment. We don't want that. We want the handshake way. And it's bringing DevOps to the database. So we always say DevOps leaves out the database. It's the last thing to reach it. But by automating these deployments and generating migration scripts for you, you can actually achieve it.
And the thing that's best about that is not just that you can do it easily and quickly. That brings predictability to what your automation process is. And so the predictability comes not just in can it happen, but are there fail-safes and are there guards in place to make sure that something bad doesn't get that far. And that's the beauty of using a tool like Flyway to help that entire process through. So today we want to show you, talk to you about 3 things in the time that we have. Number 1 is this concept of the schema model. So all of this becomes possible in Flyway because we are actually able to take and store a version of your schema in what we call the schema model for any database that we support with the advanced features. And then that becomes your template. We can help you generate migration scripts. We can check that the version you have is what you expected to have. We can update a database if it doesn't match the schema. We can do things like drift detection. There's all kinds of things that come because we have the ability to take that schema model. And we're going to show you that today. And then the second thing we're going to show is then once we have the schema model, we can apply changes and let Flyway actually generate the migration scripts for you. Now, in the time that we have, of course, we're applying lots of things very quickly and generating. But the idea is when a database is set as code, these changes could be taking place over days or weeks. with multiple developers. And then when the schema model is at the state that you expect it, you can go ahead and have Flyway help you generate the scripts with the correct dependencies and everything in order. And then finally, honestly, one of my favorites, having at one point in my life managed thousands of databases for clients, is we would get most of the changes through when it was finally done, but there was always those couple that we forgot someone had modified because it was an important client, there was a fire, and we needed to fix it. And that fix didn't get back into our change process and never got into our schema. And of course, then the upgrade wouldn't work. And so being able to detect that drift, because we now have this essentially golden master of what we expect our schema to look like, becomes really easy and part of your deployment process. Before you deploy to, check to see if it matches what we expect. And if not, fail, and then make sure you can go. And that's one of those checks that we love to see. So, Ryan, it's time for you to take off the training wheels and fly.
Okay,
I don't think that really, training wheels or bike, but it's the best I can.
Autopilot, training wheels.
Oh,
you
yeah,
just need land, air, and sea now.
There you go.
So, for any UK idioms I use or proverbs, please do translate.
I'll do my best.
A bit of a stickler for it, but
Crikey.
So, for those that don't know Flyway, please do go down to the booth. We'll give you a more in-depth demo, but we're going to be flying through some bits today. So, the first thing we need to do is make a clone of a GitHub repo. We've got a very clever solutions specialist or solution engineer now at Redgate called Huxley, and he's built for us a repo. And you can all clone this yourself and go and play ball with your own databases. So I'm going to copy the URL there, go to Flyway. I'm going to open project from version control. This is going to clone a local copy for me, and that's where it's going to put it. OK, we're going to clone that down, at which point it's essentially an empty project. The idea of Autopilot is to let us point it at a database. It's going to do all the bits it needs to do, create us databases, test prod databases so that we can migrate to them and actually see what Flyway does. These are all the bits that normally slow down a normal Flyway implementation, creating databases yourself, creating shadow databases.
Right, and so here, the idea is we've had Autopilot with a very simple schema, but now we're providing you the scripts to take a backup of your database, and then we will simply help you restore that as all of the databases that we need for the connection strings with the process in place underneath, so that ultimately you could get it through your CI/CD pipeline simply by cloning this database and providing backup of this project and providing backup of your database. But Ryan, this is supposed to be a smooth.
It's not looking good, is it? The demo's over, guys. We've got an error already. No, we don't. No, I'm only joking.
Oh,
I'm only joking. So this is intended. Oh. We've got an error because it's trying to connect to a database called Autopilot Dev. This is something we're going to create during the process. So it's trying to connect. It doesn't exist yet, but we're going to make that shortly.
Oh, so we have to set up a little bit here.
Exactly.
Okay,
There's
so
a couple of scripts
ready.
we've got to run. Exactly. So I'm going to open up the project. And the scripts we need to run are perfectly in a scripts folder. There's a nice exercise book that will walk you through all of this as well, so you can try it yourself and at the booth downstairs. The 3 scripts I want to run are these: create a schema backup, find logical paths, and create all from backup. And I'll walk through exactly what they're doing in a second, but I'm just going to open those first in SQL Server Management Studio. The curse of the demo, of course, means this has to slow down when we're on a time crunch.
Exactly.
It's a real thing.
I do have to give a talk in 30 minutes. So. Another talk.
Don't leave me.
You're doing great.
So there's a few things you will have to change for your situation because I'm going to use an AdventureWorks database. It's already pre-baked in. So I've got the AdventureWorks database name here, but you would change this to your own DB name.
So you don't have a backup yet?
I don't have a backup
The scripts
yet.
help you take the backup?
Exactly that.
That's awesome.
They're just going to do that in a moment. And secondly, we need to put in the working folder that we just cloned to, which is here. Now, when I run this script, the first thing it's going to do is make a schema-only copy of the database of my choice. Now, I've chosen AdventureWorks. It's going to make a schema-only copy of that and then make a backup of it. So that is essentially my baseline script, all of my database objects in backup form. So I'll run that one first. And then we're done. Perfect. I love it when there's no red. Now, the second one we're going to run is about logical data file names, logical log file names. Nothing sexy about this one at all. It just needs to be done so that for the next step, we know the right files to point to.
Okay.
And we're going to drag these 2 values through into the third script, here and here. And finally, just make sure that you've got your working directory set correctly up here. Now, this third script is going to create for us the databases you can see down here. Autopilot dev, autopilot prod, autopilot shadow, and autopilot build. Now, these are the things you would have to do by hand in a normal Flyway setup, but that's why we're doing it, to try and speed up the path to value. So I'm going to run this one, and third time's a charm. Still no red.
Show me.
Lovely
Perfect,
stuff. That's just what I like to see. So at this point, if I refresh my databases, what we're going to see are autopilot build, dev, prod, and shadow. So the idea now is I will make changes in autopilot dev, and Flyway is going to let me choose where I deploy those to build, to prod, wherever.
So basically, you've restored a copy of your schema-only backup into these 4 databases. Again, prod would typically be on a different server, but we're trying to help you do something locally. And so now, this is like a database that's already existed, and that becomes one of the challenges in starting Flyway, is understanding how to get this baseline. And so we've added something to Flyway to make that a lot easier.
Exactly. And making sure that you've got prod, dev, test perfectly in line is not as trivial as it seems. Often people struggle with this as well. So I'm going to get Flyway to refresh, to have a look. What is in my dev database, which will be the full schema from the backup that we got it to take, and compare that to what is in our schema model folder. And before I do anything, I'm just going to quickly show you the schema model folder. This is an object-based representation of my database. It's empty at the moment because it's an empty project that I pulled down from the GitHub repo. But that's why Flyway can see all these things that exist in my dev database that don't exist in my object representation of it.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to say I want all of those to go into my schema model, please. I'm going to save those to my project. And once it's done that, I'll open back up that project folder, and you'll be able to see, in fact, we do have loads of bits. And there we go. No smoke and mirrors here. We've got tables, stored procedures, views, etc. That is our database in object form.
And so that's the schema model, which then drives all the automation that we're able to do with the schema management in Flyway.
Exactly.
All right, so that's number 1. So what was number 2?
Number 2 is migrations.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. So we need to actually generate some changes.
Yeah, we've got to do some stuff now. Now, luckily for us, we've built this demo scripts folder, and that's got database changes in it. Who wrote those changes?
I don't know. Who wrote those
that
changes?
was weird. It just happens to be here.
Wow.
So we're going to put that into SQL Server Management Studio once again, open it up, and we've pre-baked some lovely changes for you here. We're creating a table called social media, altering a different table here, creating a non-clustered index on the product number, bringing back name, list, price, and weight. And then finally, at the bottom here, altering a view.
Right, so there's all kinds of object types. We just want to pull out a few just to see that Flyway can really pick all of these objects up within the database and the changes that are made.
Importantly as well, some of these are creates and some of these are alters. We're not only making new stuff or deleting old stuff, we're actually changing existing things as well. Now I'm going to make sure that I'm pointing at the right database.
That's good.
That was
Good for you.
close.
You've learned well.
We run this through a number of times, and Ryan,
And
I
again, no
think,
red.
wanted to strangle me.
Oh, it's been perfect.
So we've made some changes. Now, our schema model doesn't have these changes yet. The object representation doesn't, but the database does. Our dev database, or our sort of sandbox environment, does have the changes. We'll go back to Flyway and refresh one more time, and we're going to see 4 things pop up. An index change, a table, 2 table changes, 1 creation, 1 change.
Correct.
And a view. And there they are.
There they are.
Now, we can choose which of these we want to add to the model, just like before. Maybe I only want to bring 2 through in this instance. Maybe I want to bring them all through. For now, I'm going to save them all.
And again, this is all about creating that master copy, that golden image of what we expect the schema to look like.
Yes.
As we're going through development, okay?
Something we're not covering in this talk as well, but you can have many developers committing to this same schema model in source control. So that way you actually get the benefits of version control.
And since we have time, can I quickly just,
Of
I
course.
realized something we didn't talk about, but I see some folks talking, so I think it's worth showing. In Flyway Desktop, and this is just right, the whole point of this is database as code. And so you can actually see that this is a Git repository and it's tracking all of those files. We're turning the database into code that can be tracked so that later when we make that alter or change, we'll see what was modified within the database. So, sorry.
Essentially making database development as easy as application development, right? It's
So
easy for them.
believe it or not, Ryan, those 4 changes actually took the team like 3 weeks.
Okay.
We had new people, I think. I don't know, but it's finally time. And we couldn't just run that automatically. We need some help generating the script to get us to that new version.
Of course, right, because if they had to make those scripts again, it could take 3 weeks again.
It could, and that would be bad.
That would be really bad.
Exactly,
You'd have to
yeah.
look at your options there. But
And-
what I've just
and
done,
my boss.
and your boss, and your employees. But what I've just done there is click Generate Migrations. This is something Flyway's got baked into it. It knows the differences. It knows we've got a new table. We've made some changes, and it's intelligent enough to build you a migration script, one single script to run against your prod database to make it look like dev. Now, we are going to make the leap from dev to prod in there.
We are, because of time.
We don't have time to go through the whole testing process, but it is a realistic option for people that use Flyway.
And that comes back to the automation, right? So once you feel safe and secure with the automation, and we're helping you with all those safeguards, this becomes just a pipeline process. The changes go into your source control, some pipelines kicked off, maybe then hopefully they're applied to some kind of staging or QA environment, making sure all those things work, and eventually it gets through to production. But we're going to use desktop because it just helps us do this quickly.
So
All right.
what we've got here is the migration script. This is everything we need to do to get those 4 changes in one single file. Now we can scroll down and see that and make changes to the comments if we want to, or make changes to the code. If you want to, that's okay. And below that, we have an undo script as well. So say we do push it through to production and you realize, oh, actually, I have made a mistake, and you need to make an action quickly, you can just undo that really fast.
It can be the other way around as well, right? That maybe you created during an emergency an index that you don't have under sys control, and now you need to apply it to every other environment.
It absolutely can be. There's lots of ways. We support all kinds of things like cherry picking. So you could have one change that was that hot fix that got applied out of change, but now you need to do it to all of them you included into your database. So all kinds of options. But yeah, absolutely. Oh, you changed the name this
I've
time.
made sure I've changed
I'm
it
so
from
happy.
Redgate.
We've had like 15 Redgate changes, and that's been really helpful.
So I'm going to save that now. And we're going to get to explore a new place in our project folder, and that is the migrations. So if I go back into our projects folder, we've only been looking at the schema model before. We're familiar with that. We've seen it now. But we can also go and look in here, and we can see that new migration we've just made. There it is, edits to indexes and tables with such a descriptive name.
Very descriptive name. I'm proud. I'm proud.
So what's happening now? We can get to the stage where we actually want to ignore that bit. We want to go to migration scripts. And we can go and say, look at this database, what's its current status? Can we upgrade it to the latest one? So, like we said, we're going to skip straight to prod. We'll just select production here. It's going to have a quick look at prod. What does it look like at the moment? We haven't done anything Flyway related to prod yet,
Right.
so we're going to see.
The database exists. It has schema, but we haven't applied our version script so far. We haven't applied whatever 02 was, and now our script, which is 03, have not been applied yet.
Exactly.
So how's Flyway going to know if we hit migrate, why, like that baseline is the schema that's already there? Wouldn't I get an error?
We're just clever enough. That's part of autopilot.
Really?
Yep.
Okay,
Part of
let me see it.
autopilot with backup as baseline means it's going to check first, does that schema already exist? It does. Perfect. We're not going to reapply the whole schema to a pre-existing schema. That would be silly. So as we click Run Migrate, it's going to do those bits for us. And it's going to come back, hopefully, and say 3 green ticks when we look at the migration scripts. Now,
And there they were applied.
there we go. We've got no more pending. We've got success and success. So we've actually gone from dev, made our changes by hand, and then let Flyway do the rest of that. Take out the human element of that. No more errors getting through. And also gives you the ability to automate it. Now, what was that third and final one you wanted to talk about, Ryan?
Oh, drift detection.
But we don't have any drift. Okay. Right, nice.
So, anyway, this oh, sorry. Was that too much?
It was a little bit much. Yeah, we didn't
sorry.
rehearse that.
We didn't, actually, and that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and change, there's that fire. There's that fix. Something needed to happen. And for some reason, just because it's easy, we're going to do, and I have to type on a UK keyboard,
yeah.
which is not
That's what
fun.
you get for pushing me off the chair.
I know, it is. Sorry. I don't know my own strength sometimes. Really Import, oh, I can't do this. So I'm not doing caps because I keep not, you just have to go with me. All right, really important change.
Wow.
It has, a column of ID, and it's an integer, and there was this message that was really important, and it was just a short message.
All the hot fixes you could have made to prod.
I know, right?
The ugliest one.
And that was it. But, this thing had, seriously, this keyboard, you got to be kidding me. You Brits. Anyway, moving on. So, yes, that had to happen to prod, and at least the customer is happy. But guess what I forgot to do?
You didn't go through Flyway.
I didn't tell anyone else about it because it was 3 in the morning, and I'm sorry. But the problem is we ended up adding that eventually to the script I remembered, and so pretend you're going to have to third, willing suspense of disbelief, right? So pretend that we have some new changes that need to happen, but in time that we currently have, we can't do it. But we can check. So anytime in the pipeline, we can say, hey, we know that this database is at release version 3. And so before I apply these changes, does it still match what we expect release version 3 to be? And so we do that with a verb called check. And again, this is generally done automatically in a pipeline. You can fail, you get the message, you get the report. We're going to run a drift report, and we do have to do one thing. We have to have this parameter, which we can't do ahead of time in desktop, and so that's why it looks like this. And we're going to say the build environment is where we are going to check. And so essentially, Flyway is going to look at the prod database, say, oh, you need to be to version 3. It's going to go to this build database and build it up to version 3, and then grab a schema model of both of them and see if they match. And if not, it's going to show you what's different. And so hopefully, the demo gods are happy with this right now. And are you okay? I'm sorry, man.
I don't think they're happy.
Oh, shoot. Oh, no. That was a little bit too much. Too much caffeine today. So let's run this check. And if all is good and works as we hope, we can see.
Slowly.
It's the demo.
It's
This VM is actually in England.
I think it's in Ireland.
Oh, Ireland. It's in Ireland.
It's got a long way to go.
There you go. It's after 5 in Ireland.
Yeah,
you know. All right, so it's applying that. Basically, you had to look at that database, see what the state it was in, apply it up to that point, and then now what it's doing, it's not telling you this, but it's taking that schema model both, doing the comparison. It says, oh, shoot, there is an object in the target that is different. And so we actually have a report that will show you what that drift is.
This better be a really important change, Ryan.
It is a really important change. And so we could now stop. There's actually another switch that you can say fail on drift. And so the pipeline would actually say, whoa, 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 you get a failure, you'll see this report, and you can take action at that point. Oh, we can either remove this, or we need to do something with this specific database that skips this migration, those kinds of things. And so those are the 3 things. I think we made it, man.
We did.
With
we
an injury,
it in.
and I apologize for that. But, I forget, was there something else we were going to, I don't know how to switch back.
No, I don't think there is something else.
Is that it?
We can check. We've flown through that. We literally have flown away.
Just in time. I'm going to be able to make my other thing.
Oh, just
there we go.
The last few bits
All right.
and bobs.
Bits and bobs.
Bits and bobs.
That means like the last few items, in case you don't know that translation. So really quickly, and we have some time for questions. Please head down to the booth. The QR code, I believe, gives you this boarding pass, tells you where to go. And we have a couple computers set up with the workbook. And so if you can bring a backup of a schema backup, we can help you run through it and get a taste of what it looks like.
Yeah, if someone came with one, I'd be impressed. We've got a
database that doesn't have to be your broad main database anyway.
We've got SQL Server set up on the machines as well, so you can pick anyone from there that you like. But yeah, do come down to the booth, get a demo of Flyway if you haven't seen Flyway before, and it'll make this make a bit more sense.
Yeah. Questions?
How does this integrate with the Git process as far as pull requests?
Yeah.
And how can we stop, if you have a reviewer and they want to stop the process?
Great question. We've put a lot of effort. One of the solutions engineers has put a lot of effort in helping, whether it be Git, Azure DevOps, in providing you some of the TOML files to actually get your CI/CD pipeline set up. It's all baked into the Flyway command. And so things like, and then, the things that we showed you are in the command, but then it's just a pipeline, right? The database is now code. And so if you have a check that needs approval, that's just a CIC, that's just a pipeline step, just like you do with your application. And so we can help you, we have lots of examples so we can help you figure that out. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we have that sample that we can show downstairs as well, just as far as running it through pipeline, what that might look like in the various stages. Dependencies, this stage depends on that stage. And
How does it handle, sorry,
no, you're good.
how does it handle, like renaming of columns where, if you said it's state-based, it would probably do a drop and add, and now you've lost those columns.
Great question. Redgate's been at this for a long time. You know, SQL Compare is honestly the first license I ever bought from Redgate back in, I don't even know how long ago. And so from the comparison technology, we have, with SQL Server, there are 100 plus, 150 plus switches, things you can do. So even that is, hey, if we detect what we believe is a drop and a rename, do you want it to do an alter, or is there a chance you want it to actually drop and rename? There are various ways, tables, all those things, right? Because sometimes you really do want that, and so actually with SQL Server we have the opportunity to say, oh, what you really want to do is we're going to create the temporary table for you, do the copy, show you the rename in the generated scripts and help you do that. Yeah, great questions.
Question at the back there. Yep, I saw that. Sorry.
Can you start from script instead of database?
Yeah.
You duplicated the database.
Yeah.
To generate scripts. Can you start from generating scripts folder already? If you already have a database source control?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and are pipelines inside of Flyway at all, or you manage it outside?
Pipelines are done outside.
External.
So whatever your CI/CD environment is, Jenkins, GitHub, Azure DevOps.
So I'm familiar with DLM automation. I used that for years.
Oh, that is not my. You can go talk to the booth, and yes, we do. I know there's some folks down there who can help you look at that.
Flyway is completely replacing everything that DLM automation did, or?
There you go. Tom Austin.
Yeah, go on, far away.
During the check, I didn't see the report for the migration rules check. I don't know if it's not generated specifically for the drift.
Migration roles check. I don't understand. Which check?
So the regular expression validations that are as part of Flyway.
Oh.
Checks whether you're.
I didn't enable that. That's a different check than drift. So there are 4 different kinds of checks, and one of them is code check. And so yeah, that's another thing that you can do in Flyway. We have predefined rules. You saw some of them when Ryan did the script generation. It said, hey, here's some warnings. You're going to alter something, drop something, like just so you know that. But then you can actually create your own based on regex. Any rule set you want that can be, so it will check every script to see if, are the stored procedures named correctly? This is the regex expression that will help us determine it's 32 characters or less, starts with SB underscore, whatever. And if it fails, that's another thing that can fail the pipeline so it doesn't progress, right? And so when I help people set up a pipeline and they have those kinds of rules, one of the things we tend to help people do is a build step immediately. So when you commit to source control, the first thing it does is just build it. And one of the things in build is to just, why not run those checks then? Because if someone didn't name the stored procedure correctly, fix it rather than getting it down the line. So, cool.
Good stuff. Any more questions? Yep.
Well, yeah.
Just versioning is a question like, do you recommend that there be a version for dev, a version for QA, and a version for prod? Because we have a release cycle where obviously, and we have multiple people working on databases from different projects. And we have a change request window that can't be changed and we can't add new things to it. But of course, QA gets added to throughout that week where we're not supposed to, they're supposed to be testing and you don't want the things that went into QA deployed after that window.
There's a lot of this comes around just how you set up the pipeline automation. And so that's some of it. There are things so a lot of people ask, hey, in our testing environment, we want this specific script to run because it sets up a test data and so forth. So all of your migration scripts, you can say it only runs in specific environments as well, so that when you actually do the deployment, it won't go to prod, but you have that setup script for your QA environment because it needs to always run every time something's built. So there's those kinds of automations. You can also write scripts, migration scripts, in any supported language that we currently support, Python, PowerShell, a couple others. So not just SQL. So if you happen to have Python and you do something really cool with whatever, go for it. Do that. Yeah, the crew down at the booth has tons of experience, Andrew Pierce and some others, just with all of those, so many different situations from complex to simple. They'd be happy to talk with you about it more, for sure. All right. Thank you so much. I have to get ready to run and do that. Ryan, you did a phenomenal job. Great job.
I couldn't have done it without you, Ryan.
I wish I had wings to give you. I would give you your wings. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.